is Eddie Nestor's Drive Time. Weekdays from 5.
On BBC London 94.9.
Police have erased the criminal record of a London teenager with Down syndrome who broke into his sixth form college. 19-year-old Abdul Karim Al-Faisal had his caution removed from his record by the police after a petition called for its complete withdrawal. The North London teenager was left traumatised after he was arrested for trying to retrieve his baseball cap from Haringey Sixth Form College. Janice Young is the solicitor for the family, and I'm glad to say joins us now. Good evening to you. Mum and Dad must be very pleased with the result of this petition.
Oh, they're absolutely elated. They really are.
Steve Palmer is the author of Downs with the Kids. See what you did there. It's a book about his experiences as a parent of a 12-year-old boy with Down syndrome. Good evening, and thanks so much for coming.
Hi, Eddie. Hi.
I appreciate it very much. Now, Abdul has now had this caution removed from his record. It's difficult because, as I say, it's a story that we clung on to here at Drive Time. Family got in touch with us and we tried to follow it through. But you really did feel, when we talked to the police, you kind of felt for them because they did need to do certain checks and balances before they could remove him from their inquiries.
And obviously, I know of that, of the situation, and it's a small world. I live in North London, so, I heard all about it when it happened. But it's great to hear Janice's excitement there, the solicitor, and that this has all kind of worked its way out today. And the really good thing is I gather that there's been moves to work on helping the police to deal with situations like this in the future in a more sort of groovy and relaxed manner, if I can put it like that, so that this sort of thing is dealt with more sensitively perhaps in the future.
Well, now, look, when I've talked to the police about this, the particular problem they have, people with autism who aren't, it isn't immediately obvious. One of the things that were pointed out by a number of callers was you would imagine it was slightly more obvious when somebody has Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. As you go about your business with your child, do you see people looking, staring, making adjustments? Just tell us what it's like to be sorry if you didn't expect me to go in that route, but I'm just interested in how people react.
I will talk about staring until the cows come home. I wrote almost a whole chapter on it, I think, in my book. And it's, yes, people have always stared. And they've always, felt that they can say things about, aren't they happy? Walk up to you and say, aren't they happy? Stuff like that. So it's not just about the police. It's about society at large and how they respond. I've often said Stan doesn't really have Down syndrome until we leave the house, because at that point we have to deal with the outside world in a way that people with typically developing children just don't have to put up with.
But you say that. So I go swimming with my 5-year-old and he says, Daddy, why is that man pregnant?
Yeah.
You see?
Well, Stan says that to guys who've perhaps got a large stomach.
Well, So, I mean, children do see, and they do mention, don't we all stare at things that we don't see every day?
Of course we do. And I said in my book that I come from a serial family of starers. My parents used to stare at people in cafes and restaurants when me and my sister were on holiday. Embarrassing. But I'm saying, this is my son, so bog off, Yeah. Remember Gammygate, where the child in Thailand got abandoned? Stan and I went swimming, he talked about swimming, the next day. And I just knew we were getting more respectful looks, because everybody was thinking, what an awful thing to do. But those same people then had to behave themselves, didn't they?
Just in case people don't know, they were twins, weren't they? And a couple had gone over to adopt these twins and decided that the one, well, they say that they didn't, but the one with Down syndrome was left in Thailand, and it brought a whole different understanding of that subject. Are we moving forward in the 12 years? Have you seen progress? Have you seen things developed? Is that why you wrote the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots and lots of things, amazing things. There's a cage fighter in Florida who's now been allowed, he's got Downs, who's now allowed to do his cage fighting. There's a counsellor in Nottinghamshire who's now a parish counsellor, and so many things have moved on. So that's great. But there are still things, and one report I read today about this talked about Abdul having a mental age of half of his age, and that was like a dagger to the heart really, Eddie, because
is that a simplification?
It's
then?
such a simplification. My Stan's life is so much more complex and, dare I say it, interesting. He teaches me stuff every day of my life. You know, okay, he might throw a remote control in my face, but he also, because that's the part of his learning disability and understanding things, but also, let's say a family member's upset, he'll push everyone out the room and he's the one to look after them. Thank you very much indeed. So it's much more complex. And a new couple who've just got a diagnosis of Down syndrome, when they read a line like that about mental age being half their real age, I'm here to say, don't listen to that claptrap, because in my book I talk about how it's much more complex and interesting than that.
And nevertheless, you know, when you and I first met, you used to be at this radio station a little over a decade ago. It was the first real subject I did on my Sunday morning that made me go home and talk to every single person I met. And the story was, I remember it very clearly, that more people decided to terminate when they knew they had a fetus that was, you know, Down syndrome or the possibility, than have the baby. Is that story, is that statistic, does it still stand? I
don't usually look at a lot of those statistics because I wasn't ever put in that position. I gather there are statistics you can look at, but I haven't come armed with them. All I know is that I thank every day, I thank whoever for what Stan provides for us as a family. And, you know, as I say in my book, we have a laugh. You know, it can be tense and frustrating and irritating, but it is also a real pleasure having in our lives.
Go on and give the book a name check again,
Well, it's just Downs with the Kids. So it's just on the sort of digital devices at the moment, but we're seeing what we can do about that. So Downs with the Kids, I think if you put it in Amazon UK. But, you know, I can just very quickly say, you mentioned about my time at BBC London. Can just sort of go on record that working here, everybody was so unbelievably supportive when Stan was born, and also when he had his heart operation 3 months in. So can I just say thank you again to BBC London for the support you gave me at the time.
It's the only nice thing they've ever done in this place. Steve, it's a pleasure speaking to you again. We'll talk again, I hope, very soon. BBC London 94.9, don't go anywhere.